our funky cushion. I just wanted to show you this. Now, when you get your kit and your pattern and your design, you're going to get a bundle, and it will come a bag like this, and you will have all of your fabric in there. Now, important to note is that the one that's got the most, which is this one over here, that is this gorgeous color here. That is the color that I've used for my borders, and that is this color here, which I have called bright blue. So on the pattern you'll be able to see that. So what I do for all of these is you can see what your lime green is, you can see what your pink is. Those are the obvious ones. You know what the bright blue is, and you know what your navy is, because those are the darkest colors that you have. So those colors here are quite easy to pick. So you can see navy, pink, bright blue, and the lime. Then obviously the gray, again, quite an easy one to pick out. That's the gray. So the only ones I haven't collected are the jade, the teal, and the sky. Now these, you get the same amount of fabric all the way through, and I have chosen to do it the way that I've chosen here. So if you're getting a kit from me, this is the colorways that I've chosen. You can do it however you choose. You're going to make 4 blocks. This is the block that we're making, and you're going to get in the kit, you're going to get 4 of these. Now, I strongly advise you, if you want to, make sure that you take a photocopy of this, so you've got an original afterwards. And now I'm going to show you how to do it. What I have done is I have chosen the colors, so you can see I've named the colors here, and then I put the fabric key over here, and then on the actual block I have written down number 1 is jade, number 2 is lime, number 3 is navy, number 4 is sky, number 5 is lime, number 6 is pink, number 7 is bright blue, and number 8 is grey. So there are sizes and measurements of everything as well in the pattern that I have given you, so you can decide whether you cut them that size or not. It is a little bit bigger than what you need, but I would rather give you more than what you need. So my very trusty cameraman is now going to very kindly hold this over here. Watch out, the iron is on. And we're going to hold that there, and he's going to extend as close as he can without breaking his spine as we do this. And what I'm going to do in all of my FPP that I do, I always trim this to be a little bit smaller than what it needs to be. You don't need those bits there, so we just trim that off and recycle. Okay, so first of all, my first color over here is jade, so I'm looking for that color there, which is that one there. And then my second cut, sorry, I got that wrong. My first color is teal, forgive me. My first color is teal, and then my second color is jade. So those are the 2 colors that I'm doing here. And my teal over here, fabric number 6, is this color. So that's what I'm using here. And because this is the first piece and I'm sewing on that line over there, I put that in place and I fold on the line I'm going to be sewing. I always do it this way because you can then check you've got enough of a seam allowance, and then you put the fabric right sides together over here and you fold it back to check you're going to have enough, and you do. Now unfortunately this is not a tutorial on how to do FPP. That is a different class. Oh, make sure your stitch length is about 1.8, 1.7. And the great thing there is we then fold back everything we want to keep going under our ruler, and we trim everything past 1/4 inch off there. And then we're going to do our ironing and pressing that down over here. That was number 1 and number 2. Now number 3 is navy, so I'm folding on the 2-3 line that I'm going to be stitching on, and then I'm getting my navy piece of fabric out, and I'm putting those right sides together, right side to right side. I know that my seam is going to be there, so I know this is my raw edge, so I just fold that back to check I've got enough, and I'm just going to slide that down, and there we go. That is our 2-3 line for the navy. Again, everything I want to keep goes underneath my ruler. I line up my 1/4 inch line on my seam line, and then trim off all this excess. Now that piece I keep because I think we'll use that at a later date, and then we come back in for another press. Now with the pressing, I think it's important, and I'll show you on the navy, if we come right in on here, if I had pressed like that, you can see the stitches over there. That's too much. We don't want to be pulling it so there. But equally, if I then press it like this, that you've got a flap on there, that's not going to work either. So what you're looking for is a delicate balance between the two, where you're not actually showing any stitches and you haven't got any extra fabric folded over on that. Okay. Number 4 is our fabric called Sky. Now, depending on the key that you've chosen, as you can see over here, I've chosen the lighter color there to be my sky, which is that one over there. That's what I've chosen as my sky. So again, you fold on the line here between 3 and 4, fold along there, and you take your piece that you called sky, making sure it's right sides together. With these dimples, it is quite easy to get it the wrong way around, so just make sure that the darker of the two sides is what you're calling your right side. Just like before, everything you want to keep, you're going to fold down to go underneath your ruler. You put your 1/4 inch mark on here. I'm going to hang on to that little bit of navy, and everything else will go in my recycle. And then we come to press another seam. It's a really, really quick block to make. And it's also quite beginner friendly, because if you haven't quite got the points together, it's not a problem. And when we do that, you can check that the line over here, you can see over here where that line is there, we've definitely got enough fabric to cover where that seam allowance is over there. It's important to make sure we check that, because if you haven't, now's the time you unpick it and re-put it in. We're now going 4 to 5, which is our line. Isn't that a colour and a half? I love it. Make sure we put those right sides together. And again, stitch on the 4-5 line all the way down the side. I think you know what I'm doing now. Everything I'm keeping goes underneath my ruler, and I'm just giving that a little bit of a trim. Annoyingly, we all know what happens. I accidentally nicked my blade, so my blade has a little nick in it, so every now and then the odd thread gets caught. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going on to number 6. Number 6 is our pink line over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our pink line over here. And isn't that a pretty pink? Love it. So again, right side of pink to right side of your fabric over here. You fold on your stitch line, and the way I've got it marked now, it's not quite up where I need it to be. So we fold on that line again, and we can see over here to there we've got more than enough, and we then do another seam all the way down there. Not that many more seams to go. I think only 2 more to go. And just like before, everything we want to keep, we fold down, and then we put our 1/4 inch seam over here, a 1/4 inch ruler over here. You can use one of the add a quarter rulers. I don't use them. I think this works fine for me, but you must do what works for you. And then again, one last press of that one. And I can see that I've not quite pressed that quite right. And there we go. So that was number 6. Now we're going to do number 7. Number 7 is this big giant bright blue one over here. So I'm going to fold on that seam. Now this is our biggest piece that we're going to do for this. And there we go over here. So that is our biggest piece. This got a little creased in the bag, so I'm just going to press that before I stitch it on. Sometimes your fabric will get a little bit creased when it's in the bag. Always give it a good old press before you give it a go. And here we go. Just like before, everything we want to keep, we're going to fold down to go beneath our stitch line. And we use our 1/4 inch seam over here. And we trim off our excess. Going to keep that nice big chunk of pink and a little bit of lime. And we press that again. We're almost there, we're almost there. I'll give that a good old press. I don't use my steam with this. You're welcome to if you'd like to. We've only got one left here, which is our grey line. I think you know the theme by now. You press and we get our piece of grey that we're stitching on. Again, you can see my grey's got a little bit creased in the line, so I'm just going to press that to get it nice and flat. It's always a good idea to give your fabric a bit of a press before you stitch it on. Now the way that I've cut this over here, if I just line that, you can see my seam line, my stitch line is there. If I just line my piece of grey right side to right side along here, you'll see I haven't quite got enough to do it. So what you may need to do is to move your piece of fabric around to make sure you've got enough to cover it. So you can see that's the piece that's going to be left behind. And you can see you've got a really odd angle, but you're going to be stitching along that line. But by doing that, it gives you more than enough all around your block to be able to have enough of the grey. So that is the one way of doing it. The other way is you cut your piece even bigger than what I've suggested, and then you can potentially get even 2 out of that block if you'd like to. But the kit that I'm selling has got more than enough fabric for you. You should be fine. Can you tell what we're going to do now? Everything we're keeping goes underneath the ruler, and we trim off our excess. Two big chunks over there. And again, we're going to now press that. Whoop. We're going to press that down nice and flat. So there we go. We have now created our block. Now what we're going to do next, I'm not going to show, I'm going to get you nice and close. So what we're going to do now is you can see that if I was doing this and trimming a 1/4 inch, what would be happening is I would line my 1/4 inch here exactly on that line there. You see how my black line there goes to the dot? That is where I do, and I would trim along this line. I don't like doing that because you run the risk of cutting this line away. So what I do is I ruler a little bit, just a hair's breadth past that line of. So when I do trim my block, you'll see I've always got a consistent gap all the way around my blocks on every block I do for FPP. Now the reason I do that is because I don't run the risk of cutting away my seam allowance line, but also then when I stitch them together, because I've got that consistent seam all the way around, when I actually join them together over here, you can see I've got the consistent seam there, and I've got my consistent seam there. So when I join them, I know that it's going to work absolutely perfectly. So when you do your FPP, you cut it the way you choose to, but I personally prefer, when I'm lining my ruler up, I don't line it up like that. I move my ruler ever so slightly over there, and I get the same seam all the way around. So now I'm just going to trim that down using that method to get all 4 of these sides cut. And I'm starting over here because I get a bigger piece of my bright blue left over than I will if I cut it the other way. The longer you do this, the more you're more mindful of the pieces that you're going to save. Again, you don't need to do that. You can if you want to, but not many people do. But it's up to you. It's your fabric, your project. You must do it. Okay, so now what we're doing, we've trimmed all of that away. And what will happen is you will now make 4 of these. When you've made the 4, oh, there's something on my screen. When you've made the 4, you're then going to take and you're going to stitch them together. You'll follow the pattern at this point. And what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 like this, and you're going to stitch those. Now you'll see over here, I've already done that. So I'm basically just repeating that again. All right? by putting them together. You literally just put them right sides together, you line them up, and you stitch along this line over here. That's the line for your seam allowance. This is your stitch line, the darker of the two lines. Just like before, you're going to keep your stitch length to about 1.8, 1.6. Okay, now when we've done that, we're then going to come over to your iron, and I personally prefer to press my seams open when doing FPP like this, because there's so many bulky seams within FPP, and doing it like this. I don't usually use steam, but obviously because I want to make sure that it sets perfectly while we're on here. So you're going to have two pieces like that, and we're going to then sew them together. Now the important point to match when we're doing this is this point over here. If you're a little bit out here or a little bit out there, that can be hidden in your borders, but that center piece over there is absolutely perfect point where you'd like to get to. So we're going to try and get that there, but what we're going to do is, if you don't get it right, buttons. You just stick a whole button on the end of it and it will be absolutely fine. But if you can nail it, awesome! So just be like before, laying these right sides together on top of each other. I try and get a 2 or 3 stitches done on it, and then I make sure that I line up my center point and hold that in place to make sure I'm going to hit that point. And if I don't hit that point, that's okay. It'd be great if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. It's only a cushion. Now, do you think we nailed it? Do we think we did it? We're going to look together. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's not bad. That is not bad. Now again, I'm going to press my seams open at this point. Many people ask at this point, do I take out my papers? And the answer is absolutely not. I only take my papers out when I have finished the project or I'm about to quilt it. And the reason for that is you've got so much bias on here. If I put this in a drawer or a bag or a box or something to go and use later, and I put it and fold it, it could distort all the way through, and I don't want to end up going and distorting this before I've actually quilted it or done whatever it is I'm going to do with it. Right, now it's borders. I'm going to put one on this side, just like I've done over here. Got that little bit creased as well. And all I've done there is gone per the measurement of the block, and I've stuck that on there. Now I've noticed as I laid that there, that is a little bit longer than it needs to be, so I'm going to trim that little bit off there along the way. Now it is possible that when you cut your piece out that something's gone awry and it's not quite that you need it to be. That's absolutely fine. All we do is pivot and adjust. So we're going to put that right sides together over here. Okay. Now in theory you should have the same piece of fabric, the same size on all 4 sides. Measurements are in the pattern. Something's going a bit haywire here. Measurements are in the pattern, so you can definitely get that. Okay, and this one I'm not pressing to one side. I'm not pressing open. I'm just pressing it to one side. And we go from there. Now you have got the measurements for the pattern, for the pieces on the side in the pattern. I know many of you, like me, will not have read the pattern. You would not have done the measurements. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of bright blue. You're going to lay that on top from there to here. And you fold that over there, and we know that is the size you're going to be trimming it to. Okay, that's another way of doing it. You are more than welcome to use the pattern per the measurements. In theory, they are identical, so you shouldn't have any discrepancies. and that will then give you the piece that you're going to do here. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to do it twice. You've got your 2 border pieces over here, and you've got 2 cornerstones, one there and one there, and because we're making it twice, we're doing that. So we're going to sew our cornerstones to this. And we're going to do that twice. All the measurements and for the pattern in the pattern. And if you look in the description well after the time of this video uploading and being put on, you will be able to then see where you can buy the pattern and the kit if you'd like one. Otherwise, check out my YouTube, my website of iQuilt.studio. Okay, now with this I am going to press my seams open. Again, you can do however you want to do it. I press my seams open and I just give everything a nice press to make sure it's nice and flat before I attach my final borders. And that's going to go on there. And then we're going to do another one on the other side. Okay, so that's going to go on this side. If you can match that point and that point over here perfectly, voila, that's what we're aiming for. But again, you're going to be kind to yourself. If you don't get it right, it is not the end of the world. Do not worry. It's only a cushion. A pretty fabulous cushion in my opinion, but there we go. I think I'm biased. Now you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm having my border at the bottom rather than my FPP. And the reason being for that is in the event of you being ever so slightly out, like I think here I'm probably 1/8 of an inch out, the border fabric being at the base, your feed dogs can help you if you need to work in some of that excess. Oh, come on. Sorry. I'm trying very hard to get that piece. Okay, and we're going to do the other side at the same time. Just like we did before, we're going to try and match those points, but if we don't, it's not a train smash. And voila! So now we're going to I'm going to press this back before I look. Oh my word, that's pretty good. Cameraman, would you mind looking and seeing how good we got to these points over there? Thank you, sir. And over here, how did we do? How did we do? All right, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. So there we have our funky cushion pattern, tutorial and kit available from iQuilt Studios. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you very much, cameraman. And we'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye. I love it. We've got to figure